those who have been the beneficiaries of this system. We are back here on the record again with Reverend Al Sharpton, and we are talking today about the continuous gutting of the Civil Rights Act. And we have another decision that has come forward, this time in the Eighth Circuit Court, deciding in the Arkansas State Conference NAACP versus the Arkansas Board of Appointments that individuals and organizations cannot file suit under this Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I'm almost beginning to feel like, what is left of this act? How can we have free, fair elections in this democracy with this constant gutting? To talk about that with me, of course, is Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Sharpton, thank you so much for joining me today as we have talked before about the gutting of the Civil Rights Act. And now we see the decision that has been handed down by the Eighth Circuit Court. How do you view this recent court ruling and then also in the broader struggle of voting rights in America?
Oh, I view it as a devastating reminder of where we are in this country. We have already seen the Supreme Court bring down, in many respects, the Voting Rights Act. Now you have a circuit court saying that even what is left of the Voting Rights Act, only the Attorney General of the United States can bring those cases. Organizations, whether it be NAACP, Legal Defense Fund, National Action Network, doesn't matter, y'all can't bring it. What it does say to me is that for all of the people that say voting doesn't matter, this is what we get. Because who appoints and nominates the people on the Eighth Circuit? The president. And is confirmed by the Senate. And who appointed the 3 judges on the Supreme Court that overturned a lot of voting rights? The president, Donald Trump, in both cases. And so now you're at a position where you can't even say, well, I want to take the Eighth Circuit to the Supreme Court because it's the same people. Everybody that said that voting doesn't matter, I don't like Hillary, Donald Trump, there's a difference, you put us in this position. Because Hillary Clinton, despite whatever differences we may have had with her, would not have put judges on circuit courts or in the Supreme Court that would have done this to voting rights. And I think the only way we are going to be able to get out of this is we are going to have to use our votes that are left, which most of us have, to go in and get this man in a position where he cannot even act like he won, Donald Trump, and to vote for these senators and congresspeople and the local people in these elections. We voted our way in it, and we got to vote our way out of it. And I know that many of the people that watch us voted, but now you got to get your cousin, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your neighbor, everybody got to vote. This is serious. Yeah. These people are showing us straight up, no chaser, that they will take everything from us. Women's right to choose, voting rights, affirmative action. I don't know what they have to do to make people understand they are not playing.
No, they're not. And I think people need to understand just basic civics. It is so important that the seat, the position of a judge is so important. When we talk about so many issues that are facing our community, and we talk about policies and rules that we want handed down in our community, that seat of being a judge is so important. And now we're back talking about voting rights again. So when we look at how do you foresee this going when it comes to, given the critical role of that private lawsuits play, right, in enforcing the Voting Rights Act? How do you foresee affecting the legal battles against racial gerrymandering and other discriminatory practices?
I think that it's going to be very difficult for the next little while. Fortunately, we have Merrick Garland in as Attorney General and Christian Clark, who is the head of civil rights in the Justice Department, and some of these situations they will bring to the Supreme Court. But what happens if Trump is elected and you don't have Merrick Garland as the Attorney General? You have somebody like a Bill Barr was. That's why these elections are so important. We don't have a shot if you don't have the President of the United States sensitive to our issues.
In addition to that, if we see a Trump-like person in there, we're talking about, if this case gets to the Supreme Court, these Supreme Court, justices are lifetime appointments.
Right.
And we're seeing an aging Supreme Court, which would mean if you had any of the judges, far right-leaning judges, step down with younger judges that will come in their place, these are decisions that are going to be on the books for my lifetime.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, we really have to consider, and I say we because so many of us know that, but it is, how do we move and make the correlation for other people to understand it's not a matter of necessarily whether you like the personality, the character of that person that you are selecting for president. It is what have you done for me lately?
Right. Exactly.
In our communities. What steps do you believe individuals and communities, and I always get back to this because it really is about the people in this, and I think that people need to understand what kind of power play that they have in this, but the advice that you have communities to take in response to these developing to this development to help safeguard voting rights.
I think that they must come out and vote in huge numbers. And I think that they must stack the U.S. Senate with people that would do the right thing. And I think we've got to keep a president that we have the Justice Department that will bring these voting rights cases up. I don't think we have no choice. The path to our remaining where we should be is narrowed by this decision.
Is anything left? That's what I like. When I saw this, Rep, I was like, what is going to be left?
Well, what is going to be left is if we have an attorney general that will bring the cases that would have been brought. Because what they did leave is the window of nobody but the attorney general. Right. Well, the advantage is we do have the attorney general that has prosecuted the Ahmaud Arbery murderers, the George Floyd murderers, and they will do voting rights. We have nothing left if you get the wrong attorney general.
Exactly. Point blank period. Point blank period. On the eve of Thanksgiving, I'm like, okay, God, counting up what to be thankful for, but this is just a hot mess.
Exactly.
Rabbi, I want to pivot as we begin to close, because you delivered the eulogy for Dexter Wade. And of course, we had Attorney Ben Crump deliver the national call for justice. And this is a 37-year-old father whose death was kept away from his family for months. I was thinking about that as we come into this holiday season, how they will be at this table feeling and grieving at this time. And he was buried in an unmarked grave.
No, it is, and I said during the eulogy yesterday in Jackson, Mississippi, it's among the worst I've seen, and I've been out here a while. And this young man, 37 years old, father of 2 daughters, was walking. An off-duty cop hit him with his SUV, killed him. They brought the young man in, said they couldn't identify him, put him in the morgue for 3 months. His mother was out filing missing persons all over Jackson. Have you seen my son? Trying to call him, trying to do everything. 3 months he laid in the morgue. They never contacted his mother. Then after 3 months, they buried him in the Potter's Field at the jailhouse. When the mother was contacted by an NBC white reporter to investigate this, he found out where he was buried and what happened. That's the only way the mother knew. After 5 months of looking for him and filing reports and all. Then when she gets in touch with Ben Crump and me, we got involved. Ben Crump got the autopsy done. When they did the autopsy finder says in his front pocket, in Dexter Wade's front pocket, was his driver's license, his state ID, and credit cards. So they knew who he was.
Right.
And they buried his stuff on him, I guess, so they would say it would never come up because he was buried. And as God would have it, this reporter came out. This is outrageous. The policeman that hit him and those that helped him cover it up, because he couldn't have himself put him in the morgue and act like he wasn't identifying him buried. Everybody needs to be prosecuted in that police department to the full extent of the law. It's the most disgraceful. Can you imagine one of your loved ones being killed and they hide the fact and then go ahead and bury him without even telling his loved one? This is as inhuman as you can get.
The lack of humanity that we are seeing across so many areas affecting especially the Black community is such an injustice. And I know that you and Attorney Crump have called on the Department of Justice to investigate the Jackson Police Department. What gets me is every time we have these investigations into police departments, we always get back scathing reports.
Right.
But yet there are so it is like America turns her eye blind to that. I mean, almost every single investigation has turned back a scathing report that we have done with any with any police department. What has been the response with this request that you have made with the?
Well, I think that there's an interest. We'll know officially soon. But let me say this. That's why we go into Clark at the Justice Department. Don't forget, they put them cops in jail for George Floyd, the Justice Department.
Yes, they did.
They put them folks in jail with armored robbery. So reports come back scathing and nothing happens. You put people in jail, a lot happens because them other policemen know you have a Justice Department that will hear the cry of people.
Absolutely. Reverend Sharpton, as we close, I always end with asking you, what is it that you feel like we need to be paying attention to, that while we're seeing so many other news stories hit the main news hours?
And I appreciate you always doing that. I think, first of all, I want to wish you and your family and everybody watching and listening a happy Thanksgiving. We'll be feeding the homeless and elderly at our National Action Network headquarters in Harlem all day on Thanksgiving Day. I do that every Thanksgiving. I spend Thanksgiving with people that don't have families.
Come on.
But let me say, I think we need to watch what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi about Dexter Wade. Does the Justice Department officially come in, and do any of these policemen come forward? If they don't, they'd be prosecuted. I think we need to watch what's going on with the campaign for 24. Will the fact that now we see such rulings from the courts, will this inspire people to stand up and vote rather than run away from voting? I think we need to watch that. And I think as we look at the global situation, and maybe we can talk about that next week, is Israel and Hamas is certainly critical. But nobody's talking about the hundreds of thousands of people displaced in the Congo and what's going on in Sudan.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to also put our global issues out front.
Absolutely. And you know what, to end, I thank you for saying that. And our next conversation, I think this would be good when we go live to have that conversation, because many of our people are saying, well, wait a minute, what about this that is happening? What about the suffering that is happening here? We've got to value all of humanity.
That's right.
All of humanity. Thank you so much, Rev, for joining me on today. And I look forward, sir, to talking with you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you.